I want to make sure that I get some separation between these trees here. Oh yeah, that's going to work. When I was young, my father would take the family to Yosemite and up into Oregon, and we'd go on vacations in the trees. The trees many, many years ago took roots in my heart, and it's my main subject matter. It's just something I absolutely love. My name's Jim Fitzgerald. I'm a large and ultra-large format film photographer and carbon transfer printer. I specialize in a very historic process that was developed in 1864. You make a handmade, one-of-a-kind print that's the most archival print that you can create. About 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago now, I was able to see my first carbon transfer print in the flesh. And I knew in that instant it was a life-changing experience. And to this day, I have done nothing but print carbon transfer, and that's all I'll ever print. They're the most beautiful prints that you can ever imagine. It's what I was meant to do. I've had some wonderful moments with light, and Mother Nature has given me tremendous gifts over the years. And being able to produce that in a carbon transfer print is really something that helps me express how I feel deeply inside. It was actually perfected in 1864 by Sir Joseph Swan out of England, and there's no chemical in there, nothing that's going to hurt it. It's hardened gelatin. It will last 100 lifetimes. It's why it's the most archival print you can make. You can make something that will outlive all of us. So I was drawn to that fact. Back in 2007, when I had just started in carbon transfer printing, I spent a day in Yosemite Valley, best photographic day of my life. And it started a lifelong project documenting the black oaks in Yosemite Valley and how fragile they are and how they're fighting for their survival. And then I just started working my way east along this trail, and I found imagery that nobody else, to my knowledge, was seeing. Every time I go out in the field, Beethoven's playing in my head. So I am in another world. It allows me to open up my senses, and I don't even know where I go. I have the entire collection of Beethoven, and it's all in my head. I finally shot my last sheet of film, and I stopped, and I'm like, where am I? I was just in such a zone, and I realized at that moment, I need to present this. I want to do a book. So I learned how to bookbind. I took original prints and printed them on fine art watercolor paper, and I developed a process to be able to print text in carbon transfer and incorporate it into the book. So the first book, Survivors 1, is basically my journey of that day and my feelings for the imagery in the book. But I love going back to the same areas and seeing how the light has changed, how the environment has changed, how the scene has changed. Sometimes some of the trees that I love are gone. Sometimes they're still there and they're in a terrible state and might be gone before I come back the next time. And I look at it as a gift that I'm able to record these before the process of life takes over. I've always had a love of woodworking. You think about cameras that were built in the late 1800s, 1900s, They're all built by hand, so how hard can it be? I copied an old design and I made a beautiful 8-inch by 20-inch camera. Took me 18 months to build it. As I look back on it, into camera building's a lengthy process. Exposures are lengthy exposures. The handmade print is a lengthy experience. What turns a lot of people off is there's so much time invested. We're in a society where everybody wants instant results. But as an artist, any artist I would think is working to produce the best that they can. So for me, it just happens to be carbon transfer printing, and it takes a little longer to do. You couldn't have timed it any better. So I got a phone call out of the blue, and I'm like, okay, who is this? Got a spot. This is it. Logan Clark, he's just a really, really wonderful young man. This is a good spot. The way the backlight's coming and hitting everything over here.
Well, the cool thing is you just wait 10 minutes and it's going to change.
Oh, yeah. He saw some of my work out at the Lightbox Photographic Gallery in Astoria, Oregon.
It was a group show, and he just had this print downstairs, about 8 by 20. Merced River, frozen. It's just amazing. And I just looked at it and I go, oh my God, I need to learn how to do this.
Is you just follow the shadows, and the shadows will pull you right into the image. I gave him the basics of how everything's done. No secrets. And he took that ball and ran with it. I couldn't be more proud of what he's produced.
You spend 5 minutes with this guy and you're gonna know how passionate he is. I mean, when he's photographing, when he tells you there's Beethoven in his head, it's real.
This just has an old world feel to it, and the lens I use on it helps to capture that feeling. Having Logan as the tour guide, so to speak, he had mentioned Lucia Falls. And there were so many beautiful little pockets and areas that were visually stunning. I saw this little forested area kind of off to the left of the trail. It was a little microclimate all by itself, and it was a young forest that was evolving, and I thought, wow, this is just a story waiting to be told. Oh yeah, this is like epic. I was just gonna get another meter reading. That's been a favorite spot of mine because there's so many different ways to interpret that little forest that I know I'll be working that for a long time to come. All right. I always pay homage to Mother Nature. And it may not be vocally, but mentally, I'm always thanking Mother Nature for the gifts that she gives me. You need to interpret the way you feel about that image yourself, which I find I love that. And generally, that feeling of melancholy, soft focus, old world style seems to resonate a little bit more with me than the very sharp imagery. So what I'm doing here is to see how much pigment is still coming off. You can see pigment running down here. Let me stick it back in the water for a little bit. The wonderful thing about it is, if you get everything right, you can develop a textured relief print, which is very unique to this process. And that is because the gelatin melts away less in the shadow areas and more in the highlight areas. So you have a three-dimensional relief. So this is a very thick area, this is a very thin area, because basically you're developing away almost to paper white. When you get it right, the prints have depth and a feeling of uniqueness that is very hard to describe. Once that gelatin dries, you have nothing environmentally or chemically that will harm that image for its lifetime. It's permanent. So if you make a good print, it's going to be around forever. If you make a bad print, it's going to be around forever as well. For me personally, I like to keep my art form as close to the purity of the way it was back in the early days. There's no going back once you click that shutter. And more people are getting into it, and that's great because we're going to keep it alive. Look at the glow on the moss up there in this tree.
Wow.
You know, it just comes alive.
Brings that warm glow.
You know, I know you like the falls. But you know me, trees are in my heart, so it's like that.
We have a great friendship, and I sure appreciate all he's given me, and I plan on taking that torch, you know, when it's my time and someone knocks on my door.
And that makes me so happy to know that I've passed along something that I absolutely love to somebody younger, a different generation that's going to help keep it alive when I'm gone. And that's really special to me.